Welcome everyone. In this session, we are going to talk about the human heart. We want to know the role of the human heart and what is the human heart made of. We already know that actually blood in the human heart, the heart pumps blood. Okay, so we want to see how this blood flows when it enters the human heart and how it is pumped out. Okay, we'll look at the different chambers of the heart and we see the differences between them. Okay, we also look at the valves and see their role in pumping blood to the different parts of the body. Okay, and then we'll look at the adaptations of the human heart to its function. Basically, we are going to relate the structure of the heart to its function. So the heart is an important organ. If the heart does not pump blood, then you have what we call cardiac arrest. Okay, or you can call it heart failure, when your heart is no longer pumping as it's supposed to. Okay, if you don't have your heart working very well, you have issues with the different organs of your body at getting the required amount of blood. And we know that blood that is supplied to these organs, these different organs, is rich in nutrients and oxygen. So if the heart does not function very well, then you have a problem with the oxygenation of the different tissues and organs, and then also issues to do with nutrients not being supplied to these organs. And then you also have a problem of wastes accumulating, waste products that are produced in the body accumulating, and this causing different toxicities. Okay, so the heart is actually very, very important. It is muscular in nature. That means it is made up of muscle, and that muscle, we can call it the cardiac muscle. Okay, cardiac muscle. Okay, so the muscle of the heart is called the cardiac muscle. Okay, so this muscle is very unique, and we shall see how unique it is. The heart is located in the chest cavity. When we talk about the word cavity, we are talking about space. Okay, the word cavity means space. So when we say that the heart is located in the chest cavity, we are meaning that there is this space inside the chest where the heart is located, and it is more to the left. Okay, the heart is more to the left of your chest and not to the right. Okay, so the heart is very delicate and needs to be protected. Of course, the rib cage offers protection, but on top of that we have a sac called the pericardium. This sac is double layered. Okay, it's a double layered sac. That means it has two layers. Okay, it has two layers, and you can see it from here. The pericardium is the double layer that protects the heart. So in this double layer, and in between these layers, we have a space called the pericardial cavity, and in this space there is a fluid called the pericardial fluid. This fluid enables the heart to move smoothly in relation to other organs. Otherwise, there could be friction if this fluid is not there. So the pericardial fluid prevents friction between the heart and the other organs. Okay, The other function of this double layer is that it actually prevents the heart from over expansion. You see, when the heart is being overworked, it can grow in size, okay, and when that happens, it is actually a disadvantage where the heart can expand in size. Okay, so the pericardium helps in preventing that excessive expansion of the heart. Okay, so now we move to the real heart. When you cut into the heart, you see that the heart wall consists of 3 layers: the epicardium, which is the outermost, okay, the outermost layer, and then the myocardium, which is the muscle layer, which is the middle one, and again another muscle layer called the endocardium, which is the one inside. Okay, usually endo means something that is inside, so the endothelium is the innermost layer of the heart muscle. For you to understand the roles of the heart, you need to be very familiar with the major blood vessels that you can see externally on the heart. Okay, so the first muscle that you're going to, the first blood vessel that you're going to talk about is the coronary artery. We all know that arteries carry blood away from the heart, away from the heart. Those are the arteries. That is their role. Okay, so the coronary artery they take blood to the heart. Okay, they receive the heart muscle receives oxygenated blood from the coronary arteries, and then the blood vessels that take away the deoxygenated blood, the coronary vein. So they move closer. Where you see a coronary artery is where you also see the coronary vein. So the artery carries oxygenated blood to the heart muscle, and then the veins carry the oxygenated blood away from the heart. Okay, and then we have 2 major blood vessels that supply the heart with blood from the other parts of the body. The superior vena cava, the word superior meaning something that is above, and then inferior meaning something that is below. So inferior vena cava brings blood that comes from the trunk, the abdomen, and then the lower limbs or your legs. And then the blood from the head, the neck, enters the right atria through the superior vena cava. Okay, and then we move to one unique pulmonary artery. This pulmonary artery is unique because remember that arteries carry blood to the different tissues or the different organs. Okay, so this blood is usually oxygenated. Okay, blood that leaves the heart to go to other parts of the body is oxygenated. So we say that arteries carry oxygenated blood, apart from one artery that is actually unique, which is the pulmonary artery. For it carries deoxygenated blood from the heart to the lungs. Okay, and we shall look at why this really happens. Okay, and then the blood that comes from the lungs is oxygenated. Okay, because it is the lungs that are concerned with the oxygenation of blood. Okay, so the pulmonary veins, we have 2 on either side. Bring here, these pulmonary veins here, this side, these two here, and then these two here. They bring oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart. And then one of the major arteries is the aorta. The aorta is the one which splits into giving the different arteries. Okay, so the aorta is the one that carries blood away from the heart, okay, to the different parts of the body. So if you look internally into the heart, you will find out that we have 4 chambers, 2 upper chambers that are called the atria. This one here, the atria here, and then another atria, another one here. Okay, so atria is for plural of the atrium, and then you can also call this the auricle. Okay, so we have the right in this side of the diagram, the right auricle or the right atrium, and then the left atria. Okay, so those are the 2 upper chambers, and then on the lower end we have the right ventricle and then the left ventricle. One of the things that you can realize here is that this left ventricle is thicker compared to the other chambers. Actually, it's the thickest of the other chambers. So this thickness is because it needs to generate more pressure to push the blood to the rest of the body, whereas the right hand side, the right side of the ventricle pumps blood to the pulmonary circulation only, which is actually a shorter distance compared to the left ventricle, which pumps blood to the rest of the body parts. So that's why the left ventricle has a thick muscular wall compared to the right one. Then we look at the valves. The valves prevent the backflow of blood. Okay, that means that it allows blood to flow in one direction, one way movement of blood. Okay, so we have the tricuspid valve found between the right atria and the right ventricle. I mean the right atrium and the left ventricle, I mean the right ventricle. And then we have the bicuspid, which is found between the left atrium and the left ventricle here. So at this point we have the tricuspid between the right atrium and the left, the right atrium and the right ventricle, and then the mitral valve or the bicuspid is found between the left atrium and the left ventricle. Okay, another type of valve is the pulmonary valve, or we can call it the semilunar valves, which are found at the entry of the pulmonary artery and then also the aorta. So we say that the blood circulation in human is the double circulation. Why do we say it is double? It's because the blood passes through the human heart twice. So the first is that the blood that comes from the superior and the inferior vena cava fill up the right atrium, and then when the right atrium contracts, it pushes that blood to the right ventricle, and then when the right ventricle contracts, that blood is pushed through the pulmonary artery to go to the lungs for oxygenation. Okay, and that means that that saturation is what we call pulmonary saturation. So the blood from the different organs or from the rest of the body comes when it is actually deoxygenated. Okay, so it has to be taken to the lungs for carbon dioxide to be removed and for oxygen to be added for oxygenation. Okay, so that is the first phase of the saturation, the pulmonary saturation. And then from the lungs, the blood has to come back to the heart for the second time, and then it actually enters the heart through the pulmonary veins, which we say therefore into the left atrium. And then when the left atrium contracts, that blood is pushed into the left ventricle. And when the left ventricle contracts, that blood is pushed into the aorta, into the circulation to the distant body tissues and organs. Okay, so for purposes of emphasis, the right side of the heart receives the blood through the two major vessels: the superior vena cava, which receives blood from the head and the neck regions, and then the inferior vena cava that receives the blood from the lower body parts. Okay, and then both the vena cava open into the right atrium. Okay, and then from there, from the right atrium, contraction pushes that blood through the tricuspid valves that force the blood to enter into the right ventricle. From there, when the right ventricle contracts, that blood is pushed through the pulmonary valves for oxygenation in the lungs, and that blood is carried through the pulmonary artery. And then on the left side of the heart is concerned with the systemic circulation, which is the second type of circulation that happens in the human heart. Okay, so for it, the blood that is now oxygenated from the lungs enter through the four pulmonary veins and then fill up the left auricle or the left atrium. And then when the atrium contracts, it pushes the bicuspid valve to open, and then the blood enters the left ventricle. In the left ventricle, when contraction happens, that blood is pushed through the aorta to the rest of the body parts. So how is the heart in position to do these functions? One, he said that it is muscular, okay, and that muscle layer is actually thick. It is thick enough to allow the heart to generate enough pressure to push the blood throughout the circulation. Okay, and then the second thing is that the cardiac muscles, which are basically the muscle, the cardiac muscle is the heart muscle. It has a unique property in that it generates its own contractions. It is not a voluntary muscle. Okay, that means that it can generate the contractions emerge from within it. Okay, and therefore it can continue to contract and relax without the need for continuous stimulation. Okay, and then we have the valves. The valves enable one-way flow of blood, and that makes it unique in ensuring that the blood moves in one direction. The heart also has what we call the sinoatrial node. You can call it the pacemaker. We have already said that the cardiac muscle is unique because it generates its own contractions. Okay, these contractions actually come from the pacemaker. Okay, so the presence of the pacemaker means that the cardiac contractions are initiated from that point, and then making sure that the heartbeat is a steady one and continuous. And then the presence of the coronary arteries and veins, and mean that blood can be supplied to the heart muscle through the coronary arteries, and also the coronary veins can actually drain deoxygenated blood away from the heart muscles. So this means that presence of this is actually very important. Okay, and then we also have presence of the pulmonary artery that allows the deoxygenated blood to be taken to the lungs for oxygenation, and then the pulmonary veins that return the oxygenated blood to the heart. This actually plays an important role in ensuring that deoxygenated blood is actually carried separately, and then also oxygenated blood is carried separately. The same thing happens with the presence of the septum, which separates the two sides of the heart, the right side and then the left side. Okay, and then also the presence of the pericardial fluid is very important in reducing the friction between the heart and the surrounding tissues. Okay, we already talked about the septum. Now we can look at the heart health. With this, we are basically referring to how you can keep your heart healthy. Okay, because if the heart is not healthy, that means that it will not perform its functions effectively, and that means that you have problems. Okay, with doing exercise and a number of things. Okay, so what do you need to do? Eat well. Okay, eat well. Just stop drinking alcohol, stop drinking, exercise, and avoid stress. Okay, so those are the things that you can do to make sure that your heart remains working well. However, as people get old, the performance of the heart declines. Okay, and this can cause complications, and that's why older people tend to get heart problems, because the heart, just like other organs, start to deteriorate in function. They are no longer as effective as they used to be when the person is young. And then what diseases can really affect the heart? When you have blood vessels, especially the arteries, hardening, that means that we have fatty deposits that are being deposited and other fibrous tissues that are building up in the walls of these arteries. So this makes it difficult for the blood to flow in these arteries. The consequence for this is that you will have narrowing, the narrowing of the arteries, and this means that the heart will have to work harder to make sure that blood flows. Okay, and that overworks the heart, contributing to heart failure and other problems. So this problem is what we call atherosclerosis. Is that the blood vessels, the arteries especially, harden because of fat deposits that contribute to narrowing of the lumen of the arteries, and therefore requiring a lot of pressure for blood to be moving, and this overworks the heart and contributing to heart problems. And then the same thing also happens to people who have hypertension. Hypertension is when you have high blood pressure. Okay. Still, this high blood pressure also damages the blood vessels, and also strains the heart. Okay. This means that the heart still has to it is overworking, it is being overloaded, and that contributes to heart failure with time. So you have issues to do with heart attack, stroke, and other complications. We talked about the coronary arteries. We said they are very important in supplying blood that is rich in nutrients and oxygen to the heart muscle. But these coronary arteries can get blocked, and when they get blocked, that's what we call coronary thrombosis. Okay, the heart cannot stay without proper supply of blood. Okay, and when you get coronary thrombosis, you get complications that can easily result into death. Okay, in a very short time. That means that prompt treatment is very important for you to survive. Okay, so it manifests through chest pain and then shortness of breath, and then shortly you have problems with the heart. Okay, the heart cells start to die. Okay, so you have such issues, and then we have stroke. Stroke happens if blood supply to the brain is interrupted because of blockage or rupture of an artery. The brain is a delicate organ. It requires constant supply of blood that is rich in oxygen and nutrients. Okay, so that means that if blood supply to the brain is interrupted, that means that consequently the brain cells will actually die. Okay, and when the brain cells die, you have a lot of it actually results into death. Okay, consequently death will happen. So as a manifestation that will happen if there is progressive blockage, you will have issues to do with the sudden weakness, numbness, speech problems, and other functions that are associated with the brain. The ability to reason, the ability to remember, all these are impaired if someone, even if when someone recovers from stroke, they can still have residual effects. This means that even if they recover, they will still have some problems with the functions that I've mentioned, the mental functions, or you can call them cognitive functions. They will be impaired. The ability to speak well, the ability to feel themselves, that is numbness, the ability to remember things, the ability to solve simple problems may be very hard for them. So this marks the end of this presentation, where we have looked at the heart as an organ that pumps blood to the different body parts.